What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, joined by a very special guest and old friend, Matt Miller of ESPN. Matt, how are you today?
I'm doing well, buddy. It's always good to be on with you. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Clearly, it's that time of year where everybody wants a piece of your time. So I really appreciate even just a few minutes to talk about your recent 7-round mock draft. You are a glutton for punishment doing mock drafts at all, but 7 rounds, sir, that's impressive stuff.
Well, we used to do these back in the Bleacher Report days. I feel like it would be the first week of January, right? It'd be like, hey, Matt, 7-round mock draft. You know what actually was? It would be the day after the Super
Man.
Bowl. Day after
Right.
the Super Bowl,
Absolutely.
7-round mock draft. So, I get an extra 6 weeks or so now to do this, which is great. It's
This
very
is
much
nothing.
appreciated,
This is not a
right?
problem. I did want to just jump right into your first round pick for the Green Bay Packers, which caused a bit of a buzz, I would say, around the Packers blogosphere, if you will. The content creators kind of taking note of your having the Packers select an offensive lineman, particularly an offensive tackle out of Texas in Kelvin Banks Jr. Not a name that we've seen associated with the Packers a whole lot so far in this draft process, but you had some pretty interesting reasoning why you think that might be the pick.
Yeah, number one, I'm a fan of his, and I know he is kind of become this like controversial figure, I guess, as we get into this part of draft season. What do you always call it? The draft industrial complex,
The
as you
draft
so
industrial
famously put
complex
it?
is alive and well, sir.
Right. It is. And like, as you know, with that comes a lot of groupthink. And one thing that I'm really trying to do a better job of this year is not giving into that. I was actually talking to a general manager this morning and he was like, dude, you've been doing this a long time. Stick with your gut. And it was about Kelvin Banks, right? And he was like, stick with your gut. You do the work. You watch the film, stick with your gut. I like Kelvin Banks. And as you mentioned in my write-up, Rasheed Walker, this is the last year of his contract. They could re-sign him tomorrow to an extension and we would want to redo this, right? But where they're at right now, this is a team that drafts ahead of need, I think, really well. They value the trenches. Banks, to me, is a stud. He's the best tackle in the draft, in my opinion. He's a top 10 player, 3-year starter at Texas from his true freshman week one until he left. He gave up 3 sacks, Aaron, in 3 years. That's hard to do at any level, but he did it. They played Ohio State. They played Michigan. They played Alabama out of conference.
No doubt.
Right. So, like, I'm still a believer of his. I know, he's 6'5". He's got 33.5-inch arms. Like those check the boxes for me just fine. And so the way I looked at this mock draft was, I know Packer fans want Derek Harmon. It's like, that's the guy, right? But if a left tackle who you think can be a 10-year left tackle is there, I don't really care who you want. You take the left tackle every day.
Well, it's interesting, too, because I think some of the consternation, at least around the fandom, would be the fact that they took a left tackle last year, right? And what I was kind of counter initially with, and I talked about this on my chat yesterday, is, man, that may have been the plan, but we don't even know if that was the plan as far as Jordan Morgan goes, because from the moment they selected him, they haven't really done much to put him in position to win a left tackle job, where he's legit been inserted at the right guard competition from day one of training camp.
I was going to say,
it's
and
so.
He was a guy when
I
graded him coming out, at guard, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think he's a guard. That's where I had him graded coming out. Again, that's no disrespect to Jordan Morgan. I hope he proves me wrong and is your guy's left tackle for 15 years. But I thought he was a guard all day, and to see them putting him in that role, right? It's like, okay, if he's your right guard for 10 years, that's still great. That's a hit, right? But I don't see him as being that left tackle of the future.
And to your point, especially if you can find that left tackle long term, right? And to your point, yes, they could sign Rasheed Walker tomorrow, but the fact that they have to sign Zach Tom, that's probably first on their list, right? Then you turn to left tackle, and if you can get a guy who you can set it and forget it at left tackle for the next X number of years in the draft with a 5th-year option attached to him, I just think that makes a world of sense. So you're talking from a team-building perspective. I don't think, the offensive tackle this draft, be it Banks or somebody else, it wouldn't surprise me. And it feels like maybe a little disjointed because they took an offensive lineman last year. But, man, things change real quick. And Matt, as far as injuries hit, how things can cascade, man, you just watch the Packers in a playoff game where they suffered one injury in the front of the offensive line and everything fell apart.
Yeah,
so I think
you
look at
that,
and that's
smart
like
team building.
Yeah, that to me is like everything you want as far as putting it together along the offensive line. Real quick before I let you go, pulling back all 7 rounds, Was there anything you kind of find through that exercise where there are position groups that maybe you thought, oh, this group is going to like fly off the board, so to speak, or this is a group that's really deep? We've heard a lot about that at the defensive tackle position, where maybe you didn't end up pulling the trigger on as many guys as you did, or reversely, was there a position group where you thought, oh, this is a really somewhat shallow class, where all of a sudden I found a lot of these kind of guys going off my board, so to speak?
Yeah, so the shallow one was wide receiver, which this has been billed as a down year for receiver, but I had these
Right.
dudes flying off the board, and so especially in round 2, it's like there was a run on receivers in round 2 because there's so much need. And teams, if you wait in round 1, you hit in round 2. Packer fans know this
We
all
know
too
this,
well.
no
But
doubt.
I think the running back class is a really good running back class, and because of that, I found myself waiting. Teams that needed running back was like Dallas, for example, at 12. It's like, I'll get one around 2, or it's like
Yeah.
you find yourself doing that. If like the value is certainly there. Some of these other positions, like offensive tackle, it's not a good offensive tackle class, especially after the first round. So it was more like if you need one of these guys, you want to go get them early.
Absolutely love it. Make sure you're checking out all Matt's work over there at ESPN. His 7-round mock draft just dropped this morning. We'll have a link in the description of this video where you can find it. Matt, thanks so much for the time, man.
Of course, bud. Always appreciate it.